and welcome to the Big Apple School Podcast, the weekly English show where we speak about everything under the sun. The major goal of this show is to help you improve your English and, of course, learn something new. My name's Katerina, I'm your host, and today with me,
Barbara
and
Benjamin.
Dear listeners, we are doing our best to be as useful to you as possible. And, we would love to get some feedback about it. Subscribe to our pages on Apple, Yandex, SoundCloud, Google, or any other platform and let us know what you think about our show. Rate and review our podcasts, give us stars, leave some comments, ask questions, and feel free to send your ideas about our next episodes. Well, you can get in touch on Instagram, Telegram. We are everywhere. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have anything to say. So it will help us a lot to become even better, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Do you like chatting with our listeners? I sure do.
Yes, we do.
So, and today we are here to talk about something, quite extraordinary, I would say, which is artificial intelligence. So, do you have a lot to say on the topic of artificial intelligence?
Yes, we do.
Sure do.
Let's talk about all those stereotypes and preconceptions about it. And I think it would be smart to first talk about what is it? I mean, what is artificial intelligence? How do you understand that?
I guess we could say it's the use of technology in order to help humans achieve certain goals or aims. I guess that's the easiest way of describing it. I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I think of robots, and robots are supposed to be able to do things maybe better than humans, but they don't have emotions like we do. So they're emotionless. Oh, yes. Okay. That's the scary part.
All right. So, but what makes then AI different from, let's say, a vacuum? Is vacuum cleaner an AI, an example of AI?
Well, that's a good question because now you have those modern vacuum cleaners.
That's right. The Roomba.
What are they called again?
Roomba.
Yes, where the cats like to take a ride.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen videos?
Adorable videos, I know.
What, so the cat sits on top of the
take a
robot
ride.
vacuum cleaner?
Oh, I love those videos, yes. But so, are they AI? What about a coffee maker?
Yeah, see, these are the beginnings of it because I had to think about my first experiences of what led to what we call AI. And the first thing I could think of was, I don't know if you know this or not, but banking hours used to only be 5 hours a day. Used to be like it would open up at 10 in the morning and go to 3 in the afternoon. And so if you were in the workforce, you had to go on your lunch hour. And then they expanded it. And of course, they had drive-through later and then the ATM. So it's progressing this way. So I think we could consider these vacuum cleaners at least on the pathway to the extreme or elite AI.
Well, I would say that my understanding of AI, it's that it's a tool that has the ability to learn and act accordingly. So let's say if that's a vacuum cleaner, the old-fashioned vacuum cleaner, then I would say it is not an example of artificial intelligence because it is just a tool that is controlled exclusively by humans. So I decide when to switch it on and switch it off and how to do everything with it. But let's say the modern ones that you have mentioned, by the way, the Roombas, I would say that this is already an example of AI because you just turn it on and then it goes on its own around the apartment.
Do the Roombas, whatever they're called, do they switch themselves on or do they have to be activated by...
They have to be activated, but later on they, act on their own. So you just activate it and then it goes, on its own route around the house. So it decides what to clean and what not. Sometimes it might have a trouble if there's a carpet because it's like it sends messages like can't get on, an obstacle.
Oh, do you have one at home?
My sister does.
That's so cool. So does she have like an app on her smartphone?
Oh yeah. You can give it a name. Like I have a friend who gave a name to her Roomba and she named it Meatball.
Meatball.
And then you get messages like Meatball is back at the station.
Now you use the word learned rather than programmed. So are you saying there's going to be there's a difference between it learning and being programmed?
They say that yes. So programming is more about the current state, let's say, of AI. And they say that the aim of AI is to learn on its own so that you have some, initial settings. And then depending on the surrounding, the machine will learn how to behave accordingly.
Maybe we'll rely on the Roomba to make our life's decisions then.
Okay, well, now we have OK Google. What should I do? Maybe it'll be OK Roomba. What university to get to? Funny as it may sound, I would not even be surprised at this point. Like, our world is evolving way too fast sometimes in terms of technology.
Well, a few years ago, I read an article about how advanced South Korea is in technology. And they were talking about a lot of in the field of medicine. So you can do something at home and then somehow contact your doctor through this technology. And I think that's also the pathway, but it doesn't describe what you're describing of having its own.
What do you mean contact your doctor? So the doctor is contacted when a heart monitor is triggered or something?
And also if you have, let's say you took a blood sample or something at home, and then you can enter something through some device, and it would reach the doctor, and the doctor can make some kind of prognosis on it.
It's very attentive.
Yes, it is. But it still doesn't come up to the point of making its own decisions.
Fair enough. But I still think that it's already AI. At least, I mean, that would already be AI, but it's not as advanced as people hope it would be. And maybe not yet.
And it must be controversial. Does everyone want it to be?
Yeah. It's a very controversial topic. Yeah. It's also a very scary topic.
Well, you can equate it with cloning, like cloning a sheep or cloning. It's very controversial.
Yeah, do you remember the story of Dolly the sheep?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
Yeah, that was quite freaky, to say the least.
Yeah, giving too much power to something, that goes against our love of freedom. And that's the scary part.
Yeah, I agree. But what if we talk about AI used in our lives now? So we have talked about Roomba. Okay, how else is AI used? What other devices?
On smartphones, those QR codes or something. Isn't that something like some kind of intelligence? You just flash something across something and then messages are transmitted. I don't have one, so I don't know. But I see people in the grocery store going, flash, flash, swipe, swipe. Look at me, I've got a QR.
To be honest, I don't ever use QR codes unless
Neither do I.
Yeah, to be honest, I have used them like once or twice, but do you use them frequently, Barbara? Or
I don't have one downloaded.
Yeah.
But maybe they're not swiping QRs. Maybe they're swiping their loyalty card or something. Maybe that.
Yeah. I mean, with QR codes, I have had situations when I thought, oh, that would be cool if I had one, but I don't even know, do I have an app for it? I know that some people have like a built-in function in their phones, like, to scan QR codes.
Well, I've got a really old iPhone 5. I refuse to get a newer one, and my iPhone 5 has a QR code reader. So, the home screen, which you activate if you have an iPhone, you have the option to activate a QR code reader option at the bottom if you so wish to.
Yeah, well, that's the iPhone users, privilege.
iPhone privilege.
The built-in function of QR reader.
I'll use another R word. He said refuse, and I have this resistance for new things, I guess. And I think it's because I don't like to feel burdened. And if I have another app on my phone, it just seems like my phone would be just so heavy to carry around. Aww. And I just don't like having to take care of all these little things and these details. I want to be free, unfettered.
I want to break free. I had recently had a situation when I thought, oh, that would be cool to have a QR code. Well, two, actually. The first one is I was on a subway train and there was this ad of a new delivery service. And there was a list of ingredients like eggs, tomatoes, olive oil, and something else. So what do you think the meal could be? Scan the QR code, let us know if you guessed right, we'll give you a 300 rubles discount for the first delivery. I'm like, it's clearly a shakshuka. And I'm like, oh, I don't have a QR reader.
Oh.
But
Yeah,
I
missed
could have.
opportunity.
And then the next one is the reason why I think I should download the reader is remember how we talked about tipping nowadays? So a lot of places have this QR codes for digital tipping because not many of us carry cash around. So when I think, oh, I have to have this because I very often have a situation when I want to leave some tips, but I can't. So then I ask the person like, can you give me like the phone number or something so that I can transfer you the money? So yeah, QR codes is everywhere around us now.
Oh, I used one. I actually have one successfully downloaded on my iPad, and I have signed contracts by such a device. Yes, someone will send me a contract, and by scanning my QR, I can sign it and send it.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
very
usually the
convenient.
only times I've used QR codes are, I guess, when you're booking a flight or something, or when you're boarding a flight. Sometimes you have the option to scan a QR code.
Oh yeah, that's
And-
true. That's
Well, what
convenient.
about, wouldn't that be the same as when we get vaccinated? And the controversial thing is, should we be, QR'd through our vax?
Should we?
That's a deep.
Yeah, I think so. I'm an elitist. I think I have something special. Look at me, flash. I like that.
That would be convenient,
Yeah, yeah.
at the very least. Yeah. So, and what about AI being used in social media? Do you know anything about that?
I guess I'm trying to think. So I know, for instance, when you go onto a website and there's a AI sales assistant, sometimes that pops up and helps you. I guess that it's not really social media, but I guess that somewhat relates
I
to
think
social
that
media.
falls under the category of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, social media and marketing. Let's-
Okay, yeah, and marketing then. So they want to track us on Facebook with what we click on. But now Facebook has lowered the hammer and said, we're not going to do that anymore. And so now these marketers have to be really nice to us and say, oh, could you please tell us how you like that ad? Like, I don't like any of your ads. So leave me alone.
Yeah, well, have you ever had an example of how you Googled something, let's say, I do not know, buy cheese Novosibirsk, and then wherever you look, you see the ad for cheese. So targeted advertisement is powered by the AI. So we have this. And okay, so in Russia, I think we might have talked about this in one of the episodes, but in Russia, for example, targeted ad is limited to what you Google. So let's say you search for something, then, it activates all the whole
Algorithms,
mechanism.
yeah.
The algorithm that is, again, functioning because of the AI. But I had this situation in the US. Never had this situation in Russia, but I clearly had this in the US. So when my friend and I, we were driving from New York City to Boston, we stopped at a at some kind of a supermarket, and there were jellyfish, Swedish fish. I never bought them, but I asked, oh, why Swedish? What's Swedish fish?
Oh, so it's that candy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's candies. And she told me about that. And I was like, oh, cool. I bought some candies, but not the Swedish fish. So it was never, in my purchase history. It was never linked to my credit card. We just talked about this. The next day, I saw an ad for Swedish fish in my Instagram. And then I kept seeing, the same ad appearing in my Facebook, VK, and other social media, I think throughout the week, which means that maybe nowadays it's not only what you Google, but what you talk about, even though a lot of companies, they kind of deny that. Whereas some companies said, well, there is technology that, gets the code word. So if you say one thing over and over and over again, then you'll see the ad for it.
You mean your phone is recording you?
Oh, yeah, that's
there
not
was
a secret. Yeah.
controversy recently
yeah.
with one of the main. I can't remember which one specifically it was. I don't want to name a company for fear of being sued.
I don't think they're going to listen to our podcast and sue you. But
Maybe not. But there was a controversy whereby the device was listening to the users whilst not supposedly being activated. And collecting information.
Oh, there's actually not many people know about that, but those who work in digital marketing do, that you can check the settings and, some of the information that Google has on you, if you go to certain websites, if you have certain, functions on and everything, I can later send you a link. And the amount of information that Google has on you is astonishing. They usually guess right, all of the information like age, preferences, like what you buy, where you shop more often, whether you have kids or not. So all of that.
Did you go to it?
I'm afraid.
No, I have one on my Facebook, and I went to it because I wanted to get one ad off, but they make it so complicated. I said, okay, I'll deal with the ad. I'll just mute it. But they had me all wrong. They had me like age 24 to 36. It had
Maybe that's your, how they have the physical age and then the biological age and then the psychological age.
Oh yeah, that's not good news. And they had all these ads that I don't recall ever clicking on or interested in.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know what Facebook is doing.
Well, I'm not on Facebook much, but I check Google once, but not that, because I only recently came across this opportunity and function option, but I decided to see how much has been saved on me, and I was actually surprised to see that even parts of my conversations have been recorded. Like I was like, audio file. Okay, maybe I recorded something, with something. I clicked on it and it was just a random part of a conversation with my friend when she called me and said, "Where are you?" I'm like, "I'm on a train. I'm going to be there in 10."
Oh, how scary.
Oh, that's freaky.
Why is it there? And it's so random, like a very random recording of that conversation, like January 2019. Like what? But that's all become possible thanks to AI, because, it's impossible for a human to analyze this amount of data, but it's an easy job for an AI to analyze this. So targeted ad. Actually, since we're talking about social media, AI is used in Instagram as well to fight spam and some kind of, spam, and then also some content that should not be on Instagram, for example. So let's say if it's 18 plus content, swearing. So AI now can detect it and delete it.
Oh, that's really funny you mentioned that. I think it was 2 years ago, I posted this photo. I saw it, I was in London and I was walking around town and I saw this photo of do you know the Tamil Tigers? They're this militant group in Sri Lanka. And I saw a picture of this like Tamil Tiger poster on one of the off-license windows, if everyone knows what an off-license is. Do you know what an off-license is?
A lot of things that I have no idea right now.
Some
an off-license
unofficial
is just like a corner shop, a news
Okay.
agent. And I saw this Tamil Tiger poster on an off-license window. And I just took a photo of it and posted it on Instagram. They took it down because they said it's
Inappropriate.
It's violent. It depicts violence, right?
It was just a picture of one of the military leaders.
No, but
and
it
was-
might be,
It might inspire someone.
Yeah, but it was not like a call to arms or anything. It was just a photo of a
it's
general.
glorifying.
Yeah.
It could be
And-
interpreted as.
Yeah. And I didn't, it's not like I'm endorsing the Tamil Tigers or anything.
It's just,
I just thought it'd be a funny
innocently.
picture. And
Yeah. So AI that is artificial intelligence that is now used to identify all the swearings, all the inappropriate pictures, all the propaganda in some way. So usually if you post something which contains nudity, swearing, blood, so they would take it down.
oh, blood. So what if you cut your finger and you post a photo of it?
It might be taken down, yes.
I didn't realize that.
Because it might be traumatic to some people to see that. So, and then they either take it down or they put, sometimes when you scroll through Instagram, you might see a post that is kind of covered, which says sensitive content.
Yeah.
Only click if you're ready or if you're 18 plus. So, especially when there are videos of different, let's say now the videos from Palestine and from Israel, they are covered and it's marked as sensitive content. So, but if it's something explicit, if it's something gory, it's going to be taken down because it might be traumatic, they say. So AI will
Yeah,
just deleted.
well, not only traumatic to some people, but it's actually they're trying to keep things from spreading, and violence can be spread really easily through social media. And they've since we've had some limitations to Facebook in the United States, violence has actually gone down in some ways, or actually the spread of violence, violent messages.
Would you explain? How do we quantify that? The spread of violence.
Oh, by how, well, there are people who are analyzing threads, and then you're going to see if these are people who are calling to arms, or let's meet here and do such and such, and then this happens, then they know that it's successfully being spread.
Well, I mean, there's WhatsApp. I mean, people can just go on WhatsApp and so should WhatsApp?
Well, okay,
be
so I'm talking
monitored
specifically.
too,
I didn't really want to
Yeah.
mention this because it makes me so angry, but I'll just mention it very quickly. But we had this big storming of our Capitol on January 6th, and this was shown, it was proved that a lot of this organization was through social media. Not only that storming, but things that have led up to that. And so when they kicked certain people off of Facebook and this certain person couldn't spread things on Facebook and YouTube, then violence has gone down. So that's what I'm talking about.
But that,
the
you know,
spread
that
of.
also kind of brings up the question of, should all the messengers as well, not only social media, but messengers be controlled and, you know, censored? Because you've mentioned WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Well, actually, like for instance, email doesn't belong to us. Do you know this? In the United States, email belongs to whoever has it. So we're supposed to adhere to their rules, actually.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I believe that there should be publishers and then you should have platforms, and publishers and platforms should be treated separately. And if one company wants to designate itself as a platform.
Well, like we talked about Twitter. I remember you gave an example of Twitter in this way.
Yeah. Yeah, well remembered, yeah. So, I mean, my personal opinion is that social media should not filter anything. It should be completely free for all.
Yeah, that's really
dangerous.
that's radical. That's really radical.
I think it's, if you're going to be a publisher, then you should be allowed to be sued. So if you're going to call for violence, but I think
so
if you're on social media, you're a platform. It's not,
what about in Germany then? If the platform, would it really allow Nazism to
as
be
much as I hate Nazism, I think that they should be allowed to air themselves, or else they'll go underground.
Threading on thin ice over here.
Yeah.
So why don't I just, gently switch the topic and ask you about chatbots?
I mean, I'm a Jew. I really don't like Nazis at all.
I'm gently trying to switch the topic over here, Benjamin.
Yeah.
So chatbots.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk about that?
Bots, chatbots.
Chatbots.
Oh, these things that pop up like you were saying when we were yeah, those irritate me. Yeah, I kind of lose my temper with those. The way I type in.
Have you ever experienced, actually chatting over there and trying to solve a problem with the help of a chat box?
Well, I didn't know that it was an automated thing. So once I realized this, then I knew that I could not talk sense to this thing. And so I stopped.
All right. Can you think of any websites or apps where you have seen the chatbots or where you have used the chatbots?
I have a couple of times, I think. I'm trying to think when was the last time. I think it was when I was trying to get assistance with my British passport being renewed. And I think I used the chatbot to answer some basic questions about that.
It's interesting because sometimes they're so accurate as if you're talking to a person, and sometimes you don't even realize it's a chatbot. I mean, that it's AI and not a real person. I love the AI-powered chatbot that is used in banking apps. Like I have a Bank of America app, I have Tinkoff Bank app, and in there they use chatbots. So every time I need to solve some kind of a problem, like, I go to my Bank of America app, and I love it that they called their chatbot Erica, because it says, "Hi, I am Erica."
Oh, I must have special problems because they can never solve my problems.
They usually program to only, deal with the most common problems, I would say, like the most commonly asked questions. And usually, I ask just, the basic things.
You're not supposed to ask those questions. You're supposed to go to the fact sheet and look up those things yourself. They provide us consumers with fact sheets.
Yeah, but
you're not supposed to bother Erica.
Erica can handle this, I'm pretty sure.
So you're all for naming these bots and these robots and these AI things.
I don't know. I kind of like it. But there are certain things that I cannot look up because if I say, can you analyze my spendings over the 6 months period? And then I just get the answer like, you spent this much on entertainment, this much on supermarkets, this much on traveling. Thank you. Erica might be very...
you are very polite to them as well.
And what about, speaking of, assistants and being polite, what about digital assistants? So all these, what's her name? Siri?
Yeah, Siri and Alexa, yeah.
Is that the same company? No.
Siri is Apple and Alexa's Amazon. Yeah.
And now they have Cortana, I think, by Microsoft.
And what's the Yandex one? Alisa.
Yeah. So, and it's, what do you think about those? What do they do? And what do you think about
my brother has one. My mother has one. They're kind of freaky, to be honest. I don't really want to have one. But sometimes they can be useful if you...
So what can they do?
They can just help you find out basic information. So if you want to find out the weather forecast for the upcoming week, you can say, hey, Alexa, tell me what's the weather forecast, and it will happily tell you. Sometimes it can help you play music if you want to play music or specific
turn
songs.
It up, turn it down.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not only limited to that, I think, because now if it's Alexa, at least, I'm not sure about Siri or Alyssa. Since Alexa is Amazon's, and usually it's connected to your Amazon profile, you can say, Alexa, order this with the delivery to that date on that address. Done. So, or Alexa, book a table on that place for that day. If the place has a website, if I'm not mistaken, Alexa can do that. So yeah, sending commands.
Had on my phone, if I'm say up late at night and I'm Googling something or looking at something, and then all of a sudden I push the wrong button, and Cortana, what's her name? Cortana. Yeah, she comes on and really loudly, "How may I help you, Barbara?" And I'm like, freaking, it's just like, who? And I'm like, get off there. And I'm pushing all the buttons to get her off. Oh, I can't stand it. I feel so invaded and she's encroaching upon my space and time. Oh, I hate it.
I have seen videos of people being very polite with these. Like, Siri, could you please do that? Hi, Siri, could you please check the weather forecast? And it's so adorable. But I hear that people who... I recently watched a video with centenarians from Britain, and they were asked, about their experiences and how they're dealing with all the little things now that they're like 110, 115, because that's, pretty rough age, I would say, to go grocery shopping. And they say that now with the invention and development of these digital assistants, it has become so much easier for them because they just say, let's say, Alexa or Siri, could you please, order the delivery from that place or something? So contact this.
Which TV show was this? So
it was not a TV show, but it was a video on YouTube. I think it's called Centenarians in Britain.
Yeah.
But it's like 2018, 2019 maybe. So 5 people were interviewed about, their regrets, their life choices. So
it must be so funny having been born in whatever it was, 1918 or 1919, and then seeing...
Yeah, a lot of these people have gone through 2 world wars. They have seen, everything, basically, yeah.
So that reminds me of an SNL, Saturday Night Live episode. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where they were doing a spoof on Alexa. And
I haven't seen this one.
Oh, it's so funny. It was a while back, and they had these, actors dressed up as old people and saying, Alexa, what is the weather? And then Alexa would answer, and then because they're so-called old, they will be forgetful and ask again, and then ask these other questions. And it shows how Alexa's very patient with her responses. It was really funny. You could look it up.
I had one funny situation when I didn't know that my fiance's laptop had Alyssa, which is Yandex's assistant. But God, that was hilarious because we were just sitting, talking about things. And I was telling my fiance's story how I talked to my best friend, whose name is Alyssa, about how I came from the US and how much I missed shawarma. So, and I was like, oh yeah, my friend and I, we went there, and I said, Alyssa, I miss shawarma so much. And then Alyssa, the digital assistant, says, I missed you too, honey. I'm like, what the hell? What? This was very freaky.
Yeah, I would not like that.
Like, first of all, I did not know we had this digital assistant on a laptop. And second, what the hell?
This is when, I guess, humans and robots are kind of melting into each other, and they're kind of fading into our existence.
Yeah, it's becoming saturated within our
And then it's going to be normal, right? I mean, the kids who are growing up nowadays, it's normal for them.
Did you ever watch Black Mirror?
I was going to say that,
Black Mirror. So they beautifully depict people's fears and anxieties about.
I was just going to say about an episode.
Is that what that was all about? I couldn't figure it out. I would watch a couple of episodes and go, okay, I never could figure out Black Mirror. It was always so like Matrix or something on the other side of something.
Yeah.
Well, it shows the potential future of some devices and technology being used and what that can lead to. But they had an episode on digital assistants and everything, which was a little bit scary, but yeah.
I think the scariest one, in my opinion, the scariest episode was the Christmas episode, if you remember that correctly, whereby there was an equivalent of Alexa or one of those.
That's the episode I'm talking about. That a woman like kind of put a part of her soul or a part of her something. So so the digital assistant was her trapped into some kind of a device.
Yeah.
And then, this conscious part, realized it and went crazy. Yeah, it was scary. And it has so many layers in it as well. Yeah, I think it's called...
I believe you can find it on Netflix, the Black Mirror series.
Right. So, that's what I saw.
So for our listeners, definitely check out Black Mirror on Netflix.
And even in the past, there have been different stories about these assistants. Have you perchance read Ray Bradbury's The Veldt?
No, I haven't. No.
So it's a short story, and just we remember that Ray Bradbury was writing in the 40s, in the 50s. So he has a short story about a house, a smart house, which can cook for you, cook dinner for you, show things on the walls, just basically move you into another universe, through the holograms on the walls. It can wash and fold and do everything. And then one day it has gone crazy. And the children, they were so obsessed with this virtual reality that they didn't want to leave their room. And what that has led to. I don't want to spoil, so it's a short story, so if you have time, so read it. The Veldt.
Ray Bradbury, and then the old Twilight Zone is the same kind of thing of putting us into another dimension and introducing AI type things, robots taking over.
And before, we have actually a whole part of the episode devoted to the potential dangers of the AI, but we'll get to that, the scary part. So, but what are the benefits of AI? So what is good about them?
Well, it's kind of like, it's a double-edged sword. So it's like the internet, essentially. It can be used for, the good parts are, it's a shortcut for life. It's a life shortcut. You can have things organized in such a short space of time. And we can also talk about, we haven't really mentioned translators. So, for instance, Google Translate, think about how useful that's been, especially for people in massively
I
helpful.
have a lot to say about Google Translate because, I remember when I was working at school, secondary school, and I was like, kids, you're going to need English. English is the world language. What if you travel? What if you meet somebody from another country? They said, so what? I have Google Translate. I'm like, so you picture it like that. Somebody talks to you like, wait, so you open Google Translate, just, shove the phone into their face, like, now talk. Like, no, it's going to be rude and unnatural. But in general, yes, Google Translate can be helpful
to a certain
extent, yes.
It cannot decipher different contexts. That's it. Well, it's because it's still immature. It's not it's advanced, but it's not quite as advanced as it
yet
will potentially be.
Yeah, so what we're talking about are tools, and tools are to be used, and they're not to take over our whole life. So tools are, we don't depend on them for every little emotional thing, but yeah, we need some things. And of course, it's the convenience of things, just like you said, shortcut. It's just convenient. When we're talking about the older people being able to get things done from their home when they're not so mobile anymore.
Yeah. I would also say that one of the bigger benefits right now, well, apart from making our life easier and more convenient and everything, is keeping us healthy. Because AI is widely used in medical area. So one of the examples is with the breast cancer screening, because averagely from 10 to 20% of patients are misdiagnosed with misdiagnosed because they said they don't have breast cancer when they do. And now at MIT, they're working on a more accurate technique that will help to improve the screening up to like 100% accuracy. Well, 98% accuracy, they say, because they still, allow some inaccuracies to happen. But now it's only, 80 at best. So, and then have you ever heard about Da Vinci? As in AI driven tool?
No.
To be honest, no. I only know Da Vinci video editing software. Maybe it's connected.
Oh, there is a video. Da Vinci in medical area is a AI driven device which helps to perform surgeries. Well, non-invasive surgeries that help to treat cancer on its first or even zero stage, when it's not even become
early onset.
Yes. So when it's not really, as dangerous. So, and it's really almost non-invasive. So you don't have to, cut the person, just go throughout. So yeah, it's tiny. It's operated by a surgeon in another room, thanks to, all these screens and arms. So yeah.
Magnified screens so they could see better and remotely done.
So this Da Vinci hand, as far as I understand, it's a tiny needle and a hand, with different scalpels and whatnot on it. And I watched videos how they even tie, the knots after performing the surgery with these hands. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I have seen little clips of such things.
And thanks to that also, the amount of people who will never get, fully grown cancer, let's say, who will live happily for years and years is growing. And that's fantastic. Now in Russia, we have, if I'm not mistaken, 14 of these machines. And that's amazing. So, and if they become even more advanced, who knows?
Yeah, that reminds me of this article that I was reading about South Korea again. When you're talking about this incredible advanced technology and the need for skilled people. So in South Korea, they've established a lot of universities for this kind of study. So you can really prepare people to actually do this work.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic.
I was watching a funny show. I think it was the Люди. The Люди is a famous Russian YouTube channel, which also has English language material as well. And I believe it was this channel, and they were talking about the Japanese toilet seats in South Korea. Those famous automated toilet seats.
Oh, you have like 15
everything.
buttons and you have to know which one is for which?
Yeah. And I think they now have like an AI version of it or something like that. It was pretty interesting.
AI is everywhere.
Yeah.
And then have you seen the I think it was released in like 2020, the new book by Dan Brown, Origin?
Oh, I don't know this one.
So I think it came out in like 2020, and it describes a supercomputer in Barcelona, Spain, which actually exists and is called Mare Nostrum. So it really exists in Barcelona, Spain. It's a supercomputer, which in Dan Brown's book is used, for evil things and everything. But in real life, it is used for analyzing huge quantities of genomic data, because we know not much, of how our body works very often on this genomic level. But thanks to this supercomputer, scientists now are able to analyze it. Then this Mare Nostrum supercomputer is used to find out how cancer affects our body. And they say that it will be able to use to develop protein and drug models that could lead to personalized medical treatment based on each patient's needs.
So is it like a kind of quantum computer, one of those things?
So, and they say that they put a lot of hope on it to cure cancer, because, a lot of scientists and medical workers, they say that the only way that in the future we will cure cancer is on individualized treatment. So when some certain drugs, something will be created specifically for each person, taking everything into account. And they say this Mare Nostrum will be able to do just that.
That reminds me of something that I saw regarding heredity and this analyzation that was going on, but they didn't have the technology at the time to actually analyze this stuff. So there's this way that our DNA can be analyzed, and it'll tell us what diseases that we could have at what age, and even when we die.
Maybe not that advanced, but I took a test like that. And I'm really happy that I did, because it turned out that if I didn't do anything, my heart would stop by the age of around 30, 31.
Oh.
So, and thanks to a test like that,
Wow.
I'm now taking certain medication, thanks to which I will live. So, because the realization that I might die by the age of 30, which is not too far away, was really scary. So I'm like, thank God these technologies exist. Otherwise, I would just add to the statistics of people gone before they turn 30. Wow.
Okay, so we have this great technology, but then we need these great people to be able to analyze.
That's yes. Well, that's why they say, how they say that people who have children now, so by the time their children are grown up, they will study. Well, while they're at school, they will study for professions that will not even exist in the future. So we need to adapt very fast to teach people how to deal with all this AI-driven world.
And I think the kids are doing a quite
a
well.
good job.
Yeah. There's always this joke you might see on meme or something of, I need to learn how to do this. So I went to my 5-year-old and she was able to help me out. How these kids just know how to push buttons and everything.
It's in their DNA, I think.
It is.
Well, can you touch type, Barbara? Did you learn to touch?
Oh yes,
type?
no, I know how to really type on a
Cool.
real typewriter before computers. So yes, I know how to type.
No, it's quite a well, how did you learn? Tell us.
Well, I
about-
went to typing class.
Oh, great. Well,
Yeah.
was this at a specific school or you
Yes,
just?
we'd always have typing course that we could take in high school, and I took a summer. Typing class, and I was trying to teach my daughter how to really type, and it didn't work.
Yeah, my mum forced me to go to this week-long course, and I hated
Typing
it.
on a typing machine.
Not on a typing machine, but on a keyboard. And at first I hated it. I thought this is a horrible thing. And there was this old lady who was really
I mean, like
nasty.
keyboard, the usual keyboard of a computer.
Yeah, normal keyboard. So now I can touch type. And my mum,
blind method.
My mum forced me to do it. And this old lady she would reward you with candy if you touch type within a certain amount of time. But if you didn't do it, she would get really angry.
Yeah. Well, this was
And-
because you have to learn it differently on a computer keyboard from a typewriter, because a typewriter,
Can't make a mistake.
well, a typewriter, you click it and you can't, if you press it down, it won't go all the way through. You have to go A. That's how we learn.
Yeah.
A, S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
D, etc. Yeah.
But you can't do that on a keyboard, because if you do that, well, you can't.
You push it,
it'll
you
just-
keep it on, it'll go on, on.
So I devised a way of where I made up short words for my daughter to learn how to type.
Aww.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting
successful.
because when I was growing up in Yakutia, in my 6th grade, I think, so when I was like 11, 12, we got computers, like our school got computers. We were very excited because, computers. So, and the whole year we were taught how to type. So we had those programs for like blind typing. So we would look on a screen and just type. And then later, my mom and I, we would, work by typing things that people would bring us, piles of paper of their thesis or something written by hand, and we would type that. And we had to do that fast, because people had deadlines, and that's how we earn some money. So and that's why now I type really fast.
They would measure it by how many words a minute can you type. Mm-hmm. Do you remember how many minutes?
I recently actually checked it, but I also had very long nails. So, and now that I have shorter nails, it would be faster. Yeah, I think it was around 500 words per minute, or 500 signs per minute.
Oh.
I think it's like symbols
Back
and not
then
the words.
It was words, meaning that 5 symbols equaled 1 word.
Yeah, I think it was like 500 symbols per minute, and then 400 something symbols per minute in Russian, which was funny. Like, so now I type in English faster than I do in Russian.
That's because Russians have long words.
Maybe that's because I type the scripts for the podcast, I think. More than 1 year of doing that. Couldn't but affect it.
Yeah, it's quite a long task, actually.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to, on average?
Well, if we exclude the timing, I would say around 4 hours for a podcast.
It's quite a long time. So this is where AI can help, maybe someday.
Yes. So if at some point there is a program advanced enough, to put everything, because, there are programs now where you could you download or upload something, the sound, and you get the script of it, but it does not take into account slang, all these the pause fillers and everything, interruptions, and accent. So if it's not, an RP, no, very often you would have just a set of sounds, which is not even a word, or it, shows a word that is not there. So yeah, I really hope that these programs will be developed and advanced more. Yeah. And then speaking of AI, what about driverless cars?
Oh yes,
I think there are some that exist.
Yeah, Tesla. Yes. Have you tried it, Barbara?
No,
tried it.
Have you?
I just read an article saying that there was this big crash, and now they have to re-examine things.
Really?
Yeah.
So what do you think about driverless cars? Do you think that will become a norm, or it will keep, being something for the
on a
very
slightly
rich?
similar topic, so manual transmission cars. The manual transmissions have been phased out over the years. Of course, they still exist, but car companies are not building them anymore. And it kind of, coming back to driverless cars, it kind of takes the fun out of driving. I mean, driving's supposed to be something that you enjoy, and
because you're in control. You've got your car.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I would enjoy driverless cars so much because I'm not a driver. I don't know how to drive. I'm scared of driving, especially here in Novosibirsk, because the drivers seem to be very aggressive.
Yeah, they are pretty aggressive.
Well, there's 2 kinds of driving, that when you're out on the open highway across country, and then this commuter kind of thing. So you probably don't want to get into the traffic because you're not efficient with that. Mm-hmm. So a driverless car might be something you're interested in.
I don't know. But even now, I think AI is used in our cars because let's say my sister's car, it has this function of if she's getting too close to something, like ahead, the car might stop. Then especially if it's like, you come close to something too fast, on a speed, then it also has the function, I don't remember how it's called, but let's say she can set the speed of, let's say, 80 kilometers per hour, just not even touch the wheel. It'll control itself. It will just go, straight ahead.
Yeah, cruise control. Yeah,
cruise control.
Yeah,
yes, that's what it is. Yes. So, and I think this is AI because it analyzes the situation.
I couldn't buy a car without cruise control because of my commuting. So it definitely had cruise control. But as soon as you touch the pedal, it's going to unlock. Mm-hmm. But what does it do to our critical thinking skills, our being able to decide things?
Yeah.
I think that's a detriment.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. It's, because our brain's a muscle, and it needs to be exercised in many
Right.
as
We need
much as
to
possible.
exercise our reasoning and learn how to do better. But if you just get lazy and say, well, yeah, the car will do it, Google will do it, this will do it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. You know, I think that could be the first point in our negative sides of AI and potential dangers of AI. So people becoming lazier might be the first one, especially the drivers. So what else do you think can be named as potential dangers of AI? So why don't some people trust the AI?
Well, for instance, if you get those scam calls from, I think they are. I'm not sure if mafia is the right word, but from organized criminal organization to harvest your voice.
Oh yeah.
And they try to prompt you to say the word yes and my name is this in order to access your banking details.
Even in Russia, yeah, they call you, is that this person? You're like, yes or no? You're like, but yes or no? You're like, yup, 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 yup. So they want you to say yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's why, so I told my mom, because now, you know, the scamming is out of control, I think. I told her, never say yes or no or your full name. Just say something like, yep, or let's say you are not wrong or you are correct.
Yeah.
Something like that they cannot use yes.
So, the danger is more, I guess, mostly to your financial security.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially since society is moving away from cash.
Yeah, it's getting, it is getting out of control.
And of course, there are
scary.
benefits to not having cash with you all the time, but also the big downside is who knows what can happen in the future.
Well, that's why they say that now you can't have just one, account, one bank account. You always have to have, some money on a separate account or several cards.
Yeah.
And that's also, it's so tiring, I would say. Because let's say just a couple of days ago, I was using Airbnb because I booked, I bought tickets to St. Petersburg for the end of August
Very
to have a
nice.
holiday. And I was paying for my Airbnb housing. And I thought, okay, they do not, send you any kind of verification code. So they just take the money out of your bank account. So no code to put in, no bank security system, nothing. So I'm like, okay, I might use this card. Oh, wait, but this card has a little bit more money on it. So if somebody hacks it, I'll lose way more. Okay, I'll use this card because then if somebody, hacks it and takes all my money from it, well, I can handle that. And the very idea that you have to think about that all the time is...
It's a schlep, yeah.
It's a what?
A schlep, you know that?
Schlep?
You know that word, schlep?
No.
Well, kind of schlepping around like this.
Yeah, exactly. It's a struggle. It's a...
I love the word schlep. Schlep.
Well, I thought you were saying schlep with an E.
No,
Schlep or schlap?
no, schlep with an E, yeah, with
Yeah.
an E. Yeah, it's a schlep, yeah.
SCHLEP.
LEP, yeah.
Yeah, I think we use it differently though. Schlep is like trouncing around just...
A schlep's like heavy...
Yeah, heavy, right.
Heavy
right.
movement, yeah. So
Right, right.
schlep meaning
Okay,
that it's
got
a
it.
struggle to do.
I get
Yeah.
it.
It's used quite a lot in in American.
I do not know about our listeners, but I definitely learned something new right now. Wow, I didn't know this word. That's
Yeah,
cool.
very German, right?
It's
Very
actually
well,
it's Yiddish. Yeah, it's Yiddish slang. Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah.
Ah,
But
right,
It's
it
used
sounds-
a lot. Yeah, if you watch, have you ever watched Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Yeah.
That show, they use that word a few times.
I
Yeah.
see. It's kind of an old word, though. It's really not in mainstream. It's kind of like an old-fashioned word.
But I
little
love the
bit,
way it
yeah.
sounds. We should make it mainstream for
schlep.
the sake of the sound.
Yeah. So when we're talking about the lazy mind, that is connected to trying to teach kids or teach people. Because if people are getting to be lazy in their
I
mind,
think in our job
it's very
as
difficult.
language teachers,
It's
it is
very
seen
difficult.
more than in any other.
Because do you know the great value of writing things out? This eyes, mind, hand, paper, and you're supposed to write things out. And so I say, okay, everybody, write this out. And then click, 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 taking a picture. Oh, wait. Okay, that's convenient.
but
And then I try to explain to them eyes, brain, the connection between this. And they don't care. Yeah. It makes really difficult
it is.
teaching.
It is. That's true. Yeah, that's sad. And you know how they say, well, let's say you explain some kind of a subject, no matter what kind of a teacher you are, what subject you teach. And you're like, okay, you can write it down. You know, you have to memorize that. And kids just nowadays just say, why? Why do we have to memorize that if we can Google it? Mm-hmm. What's the point?
Yeah, and what I read, which was a really good response to that, is you really don't know anything unless you can, you know, pull it out from your brain without Googling. Mm-hmm. If you have to stop a conversation and Google, you don't know. You don't know the topic. You don't know it.
But at the same time, if you Google, you're going to forget it the minute you know, turn off your phone. But I remember when I was a kid and we had some kind of a, you know, debate. Let's say, what about that? Where do lions live? Do they live in that part too? We would go and get the encyclopedia. We had like 5 different books. You know, find the right page, read it out loud for everyone to hear. And then it would stick because it took effort, you know, to find this information. Not just Google. Okay.
Yeah, I remember being a little kid when I'd have to do a school project when, let's say I was 9 years old, and we'd have to go through the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah.
Recitation, actually from your memory. And I think we've gone away from that because people want to be creative in their teaching, which is completely fine. But don't forget that you have to memorize things. You have to sit there and say it over and over and repeat it and repeat it. When I try to do that with my students, it's hard. For instance, if I say, okay, the vowels are A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. A, E, I, O, U, sometimes Y. I make them go faster than that, because I want it in their brain. Or I'll test them on parts of speech, a noun. What is a noun? A noun is a person, place, or thing. And you have to say it exactly. A noun is a person, place, or thing. You have to say it exactly like that. Because I learned that as a kid, and it was you know, pushed into our brains, reciting it.
Yeah, the regimented style of learning. Yeah. I had a student who had trouble remembering the word fire extinguisher, and I said, I would make him say fire extinguisher, fire extinguisher, fire
Write
extinguisher.
it down 50 times, you're never going to forget it.
Yeah, or imagery. Yeah, like that reminds me of a student who didn't know how to spell license with a C. And so I told her how I always remember how to spell license with a C. It's not with an S.
I actually have this problem sometimes.
Oh, no, okay.
Too, yeah.
Well,
High five,
what I did, well, I don't. And the reason is because I Googled a picture of lice, because I think of lice. And so you have to think of lice. And so, you know, a microscopic image of a lice's face will definitely make you remember. So you'll never forget how to spell lice.
No, I'm going to remember,
Yeah, it's like a mnemonic technique, I think, when you have some kind of association.
Yeah, a picture, an image connection.
Something like that. We used that a lot when we were, when I was a student. So my roommates and I, we used this technique a lot because we had to memorize hundreds of words, you know, learning English language. So, yeah. All right. And, you know, speaking of potential dangers of AI, so I was recently watching a video, which was an old interview with Elon Musk at one of the tech conferences in Austin, Texas in 2018. And I want to quote what he said, because if that guy says it, we should be definitely worried. Because in March 2018, he said, "Mark my words, AI is far more dangerous than nukes. I'm really quite close to the cutting edge in AI, and it scares the hell out of me," he says. "It's capable of vastly more than almost anyone knows, and the rate of improvement is exponential." And that is scary.
It is.
This guy knows what he's talking about, you know, and if he says that it's scary, it's scary. And one of the points of potential danger, apart from what we have mentioned, is also said to be automated weapons. So what do you know / think about that?
You mean the red button?
Well, among other things, it's like they say that AI will be in control, let's say, of when to launch, you know, different nuclear weapons or biological weapons. And in general, that the weapons will have a different structure, maybe, so that everything will be controlled through computers. So it's like they say that new types of weapons will appear. So which is going to be, as they say, the Kalashnikovs of tomorrow.
Well,
so
are you talking about rogue countries, or are states that have some kind of...
So I believe if a prime minister or a president were to engage a nuclear weapon, they have to get a special code. I mean, I'm only...
Yes,
Yeah, and
there's,
there's
I mean,
certain
of course,
steps you have to
of
go
course the
through.
details
Yeah.
are not there yet, but they say that if anything like that, and it is being developed, but if any country, starts using AI-controlled weapons or something like that, when people do not have to be, in the, like military planes launching the rockets, but it can be all automated, it will start the arms race, the AI-powered arms race.
I just don't see a state allowing that. I just don't see that because they know the dangers. I'm talking about the United States.
But all it
I
takes
can't
sometimes is one person acting dumb. Remember the situation when everyone was afraid that if North Korea starts it, then it's just going to all, start the Third World War. Like last year it was, the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Well, a slightly different topic. I just came to mind 3D printers, and I remember watching a documentary about people who printed handguns from 3D
Yeah, so we're talking,
printers.
that's what my point is. Are we talking about people who are licensed to do this or just the run-of-the-mill people? Are we talking about rogue countries or are we talking about
I think
states that are...
it can combine all of that.
but I just don't
Because if
think
that
that-
appears, somewhere in certain countries, at some point
That
it's inevitably going to appear at the black market.
I can see that happening in a rogue country. But as far as the United States and civilized countries that have been established for a while, I just don't see that would be allowed to do that because we know that we have to use our reason.
So let's hope that this is a potential danger that will never come to life.
Well, with
then.
rogue countries, yeah, it's a potential danger, definitely. Yeah, because if you've got nuclear power, then you've got the power, or at least you can wield your power in threatening with it.
Okay, and what about the more, let's say, common problem that AI might cause, which is job loss? So, because a lot of people, they say, oh, with the advancement of different robots, I'm going to lose my job. Like, they're going to steal our jobs. We're not going to have anything to do. We'll be poor and homeless and everything. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think then they would have to get other kinds of skills of fixing these robots and things. So I don't think that would be...
So let's think. What jobs do you think will be replaced by machines, by AI?
Well, I did a course in translation at university, an introduction to professional translation, and essentially the argument was put forward that translation jobs will not necessarily disappear, at least within the next 30 years or 20 years or so, because as we previously covered, there's so many nuances to dialects, to slang, etc. So if we just look at the area of translation, that will not necessarily be affected, and perhaps that could be reflected in other industries. But if you look at supermarkets, we have self-checkouts, which are, I mean, I'm not sure if that's AI, but it is kind of AI.
It is a part, yeah, kind of it.
So, yeah, I guess it is definitely taking its toll on careers.
So what other professions do you think are in danger of being replaced by robots and AI?
Like car manufacturing, I think.
Car manufacturing?
Yeah, physical things. So, for instance, I don't know, luggage porters, stuff like that at airports, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows? Little, just
Right.
random jobs like this. Yeah.
So certain service jobs we're talking about.
Especially
Exactly,
something that requires, a lot of physical strength, because, people have always been looking for ways to not do that, rather, to control the machine rather than, work themselves, because that's difficult.
When I was working in a hotel in Las Vegas, we had these self-check-in machines, and I had to assist people with these self-check-in machines. And as I was using it, I was thinking, I'm helping people out of my job here.
Speaking of Las Vegas, I remember there is a bar with no bartenders, but it's all, automated hands and everything. And you just, push some buttons, pay with your card, and you can see these hands just, mix in a drink for you. And then it just...
Yeah, I think they have these in South Korea as well, coming back to South Korea.
Okay. Speaking of translation as well, we had a course in translation at my university, and I remember our professor asking, like, how many of you guys watch The Big Bang Theory? So, and quite a few people raised their hands, and they're like, do you watch it in translation or in the original? We said in translation because there is one translation agency that does an amazing job. The way they translate all the jokes is fantastic. They are gods, really. So, and our professor has said, as long as there are people like this agency, which is called Courage Bombay, the translators are never going to be replaced by AI. Because the way they translate humor is impossible to be done by a machine.
Yeah, we have this saying, lost in the translation.
Yeah, because there's no such thing as 100% verifiable translation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that's funny to you in Russian. I'm like, what? I don't understand.
Yeah, because there's a lot of anecdotes or anecdote as they're called.
Or certain ways of play on words.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of jobs, so Brookings Institution, which is a place that studies the AI, so they issued some kind of a report in 2019. And according to this, 36 million people work in jobs with high exposure to automation. So meaning that before long, at least 70% of their tasks will be automated and they will no longer be needed. And then ranges from retail sales, as Ben has mentioned, and market analysis to hospitality and warehouse labor, as again, we have mentioned. So yeah, and that all can be done with AI. Have you seen some of the videos actually of Boston Dynamics?
Oh, I haven't actually.
Oh God, check them out. Because they regularly post things about their robots and how they can do tasks like, loading things, transporting goods, cleaning. Because they have videos of like robots going through an office, seeing a dirty dish and just taking it to a dishwasher. And if it's a can, then it goes to recycling. So, and they teach the robots to do all these things. So not controlled by a person, but she's, programmed to do things like that. And
so what about cleaning? Don't you feel good to clean your house? I mean, don't you feel pure after you've done it?
Yeah. And also, for coming back to technology of cleaning dishwashers, they never properly clean the dishes.
Yeah, I don't use a dishwasher, not just because I don't have one, but because I actually would prefer not.
Yeah, exactly.
If at some point there is a machine that cleans everything for me, I would be the first in line.
Really?
I hate cleaning.
Oh, I think cleaning a house kind of reflects what's in your mind. And when you clean your house,
I do totally agree.
Yeah. Then you probably were like I was. Before you write a major paper in college, you have to clean your house, get all organized.
I did that while I was writing a paper because then I would, get distracted. Like, I suddenly feel the urge to wash the floors rather than write this paper.
Deciding.
But I wash, I clean, but I just hate it.
Oh. I mean, I feel accomplished after I've cleaned the house. Yeah.
I feel so good. Like, look what I've done, everybody. Look my...
I love all the, honestly, now I'm on the other side. If a machine can do that, I'll let that do that. But just a couple of days ago, the second season of Love, Death and Robots came out. Have you ever heard about this show?
No.
Oh God, check this out. It's cartoon, but each episode is separate. So, it's a separate story and they're like 10 to 20 minutes long. And one of the episodes in the second season was about a cleaning robot, like a vacuum bot, it was called. And it just, it went nuts. And at some point it tried to kill the dog. And then, it analyzed the situation and saw a person as a danger and tried to kill the person.
Oh, wow.
And I just looked at it. I'm like, and I told my fiance, like, remind me never to get one, even though I'm very tempted to. Like, who knows? So, and actually we mentioned Black Mirror as the TV show about all that. So if anyone is interested, check out Love, Death and Robots as well. So it has 2 seasons. Each episode is around 10 minutes. It's cartoons. Also show, potential dangers of AI and robots and everything.
Did you say it was on Netflix?
It is on Netflix, yes.
And not cartoons for children. It's cartoons.
Oh God, no. 18 plus. A lot of blood in a lot of episodes. Like, no. Explicit content, gory episodes, all that. So no children are allowed anywhere close. Yeah. So, but what jobs do you think will never be replaced by a machine?
Teaching. I don't care how people say that they're self-taught and everything. I just think that being motivated by a teacher, having some kind of connection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think.
I'm trying to think. Right. I guess medical profession. I mean,
Medical profession.
Yeah, I guess that's a very nuanced profession that you can't just go to a self-check machine and you can for your blood pressure.
Although there is now a device that with 90% accuracy can diagnose eye diseases.
Oh, cool.
It's only eye diseases so far, but 90% accuracy, just think about it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think surgeons.
But it's still a tool, right? Because then you need somebody to do the surgery. You'd have to.
Yeah, but at least, it is smart enough to diagnose it. So you don't have to make up an appointment, which will be in 3 months, for example, wait for it, go to a doctor. So, yeah. But I agree. Some of the medical workers will never be replaced, like surgeons. Any other professions?
Were you talking about that? Professions that will never in future will never ever be.
Well, we can't be sure about never ever, but let's say within the next 100 years, maybe 100 something years, because
I was going to say sommelier, I guess, but I guess a machine can eventually be fine-tuned to detect different nuances in wines, I guess. I don't know.
A wine taster.
Which will make a lot of wine tasters, very sad.
Yes.
I guess eventually computers can be programmed.
Although, that's interesting because this profession is not about, telling you what kind of nuances there are in wine, but it's more about communication with a person.
The joy of living.
The joy of discussing this wine with somebody.
Yeah, and holding the glass not by the stem, but by the body of the glass. That's what and doing this.
And the same with, so as you have mentioned teachers, of course you can get self-taught, of course you can do things with apps, but how many students we have now who actually come to class, even if it's online class, just to talk to a person, to discuss different things, to tell your story, things like that. And kids, I can never imagine kids learning with a robot or something like that.
It's true. One of the most crucial parts of learning your language is speaking and getting words off your chest and formulating sentences spontaneously. Yeah,
spontaneously and our body movements as well.
Yeah, exactly. And being able to read facial cues and things like that. Yeah.
And I've just remembered that we have talked a lot about how AI can be used in medical area and about this breast cancer screening and about eye diseases diagnosed. If anyone is interested, you can check out, you can find it online, National Geographic issue 2019, issue number 1 from January. The whole of the issue was devoted to AI in medicine. And I remember reading it, I was shocked as to how much, medical area has developed. Because they're now, and they wrote about 3D printing organs, transplanting things, creating eyes, so when a person has something wrong that they had to have their eyes implanted, that they would have the same sensitivity as a real eye. And it's just, wow. So National Geographic 2019 issue 1. And if you are from Novosibirsk, you can borrow it from the local library for free. So, yay. All right. So, and what about, all these dystopian scenarios where all the robots, they go rogue and they destroy the humanity or,
And what comes to mind is, do you remember the TV show The Jetsons?
Oh, yes, definitely.
So
I have never watched it. What is it about?
Do you know,
Yeah, it came out in the 60s. It's a space age family. And they have robots and everything that you need to get done as a task, like putting on shoes or whatever. There was some kind of robot to do it.
And I don't know which year were they depicting. Was there not a...
They're depicting the future. Yeah, what year in the future?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Because back in, I guess, the 60s or even the 90s, people would always depict, I guess, our current day as having flying cars and as having... And it hasn't happened. Of course, if you were in the 60s and you were dropped into 2021, of course,
you would still be shocked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that movie, 21 Space Odyssey. What is that?
Well, I've heard of it, but never.
Yeah, it was a movie,
it.
and I can't remember. I think it was made in the 1970s, and it's for like the year 2000. I think the year 2000 was a special year.
Yeah.
So, do you think it's possible that this rise of the machines will happen?
Well, I mean, it comes down to the inventors of the machines.
Does it though? Because they're now working on AI being able to feel. Like so that the robots, well, not the robots, they don't want to call them the robots, but that AI people, that they will have emotions, that they'll be able to feel, and they will have rights just as an ordinary human person. So who knows? At some point, they might get out of control.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's always the potential for it, I'm sure.
Have you ever watched Westworld?
No, I haven't, no.
Barbara, have you
No,
heard?
I've never heard of it.
Because Westworld is a TV show which shows a theme park where there are robots that look like people, act like people, and you can never, tell them apart from real people. And this theme park allows rich people to basically make any of their vices possible. If they want to kill, you can do that here. It's all the killing, the raping, all of that, because, they're robots. Then the setting, is changed and ta-da, they all good to be used again. So, and in that TV show, the robots, well, some of them, they start to realize that they're not real people, that their, memories are not real, that they have fake memories, and they go against the humans, for creating them, for just being used for killing and for everything. So, and that's a really scary TV show, but it also, gives you so much food for thought. So if you ever want to watch it, Westworld.
I think I have a little bit more faith in humanity, that I really think that it wouldn't go that way. Because the only way it would go that way is since it's our nature to be power hungry and greedy, only if a person were in power, in control of these reckless AI. Yeah, because we're ingrained to be human. We're not going to allow something to have control over us unless we can control it. One person could make it happen. Yeah.
Let's hope that if that happens, I hope that if that ever happens, I won't be alive to see that,
Well, it kind of reminds me of having, there's this, having toys that children learn responsibility, like not a real dog, but then they take care of it like a real dog. Why don't you just give it a real dog to take care of it? I mean, that's that same kind of mentality of a step away from real humanity.
Yeah. Oh, wow. All right. Well, I now have some questions to the listeners. So what do you guys think about all that? Do you have an optimistic view on the AI or a pessimistic view on one? And also, if you're interested to hear more about, different dystopias and the scenarios, you can check out the episode about dystopias, which we had not long ago, I think like a month or two ago with Gary and Maria, I think it was. So, all right. So, Barbara, Ben, so how would you summarize this episode for our listeners? Just in a few words.
Technology and how it affects our lives.
The pros and cons.
The pros and cons. Okay. So is there anything that changed your view on AI or something new that you learned during the episode?
I wasn't aware of how advanced some of the medical things were.
Yeah, me too, yeah.
And I wasn't aware of dystopia. I didn't know that it was so prevalent that people are making up stories and
oh God,
I had no idea.
So many. It seems to be one of the most popular genres right now. which also, makes us think, why? Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. That was the Big Apple School podcast. And today we discussed artificial intelligence. Thank you for listening. And remember, if you struggle to understand our conversation, you are always welcome to our website, which is bigappleschool.com/podcast, where you can find all of the episodes and all of the scripts for each episode. So you can read and listen. Cool, right? Also, if you want to get more content which will help you learn English, you can follow us on the social media such as Instagram, VK, YouTube, Telegram, everywhere. We are everywhere. Just search our name, which is again, Big Apple School. So that was Katya, and my guests for today were
Barbara
and
Benjamin.
Stay tuned, and we'll see you around.